Hello, Finovate. We are Meniga, an innovation partner to banks across the globe. Our software powers banking apps used by over 100 million people in more than 30 countries. Meniga is a pioneer of personal finance management in digital banking, and our software is best thought of as a collection of use cases that drive engagement and transform the digital bank into a financial coach-type user experience. We are here today to tell you about our latest invention, a new product called Carbon Insight, at the intersection of fintech and sustainability. Concerns about climate change have never been greater. A brand new survey by Pew Research Institute conducted across 14 countries reveals that 77% of consumers consider climate change a major global threat. The very same people that are concerned are also tired of talk, empty government promises, and lack of action. Carbon-conscious consumers are no longer a fringe movement. They are mainstream, they are tech-savvy, and they are affluent. They're an extremely desirable segment for any business, and they are ready to vote with their wallets in favor of sustainable products and services. And what's more, banks are uniquely positioned to help them manage their carbon footprint, while at the same time positioned strongly to offer them green banking products. Now, let me show you how powerful this is. Meniga helps banks seamlessly integrate a digital carbon footprint advisor into their mobile banking app, typically introduced in the context of a newsfeed or a transaction list. Meniga automatically calculates users' carbon footprint based on their spending data and presents it back in a compelling and intuitive way. The carbon footprint is available real-time and can be explored in different time periods across spending categories and can be monitored over time. The carbon profile is designed to cater to all types of users, from the curious consumer to the environmental enthusiast. Each item in the feed gives simple and intuitive information, but is also interactive and serves as a gateway to richer information and more functionality.
I love this visibility, but how do I know what 800 kilograms of CO2 per month really means? Is that good or is that bad?
It's not just you, Greg. A CO2 weight value doesn't mean much to most people, at least not initially, which is why we relate it to things people do understand. How many trees are needed to absorb your monthly emissions? How far can you drive your car on your annual footprint, etc. Another great way to give context to a carbon footprint is to compare it to that of others using both global and national averages or peers within the same bank. A deep dive into the carbon footprint helps you better understand the source of your environmental impact. Zoom in on carbon-heavy spending categories and explore subcategories all the way down to individual transactions. Now I'm looking at my footprint from cars and transportation, for example. Be inspired by spending category-specific tips on how to consume more sustainably.
Cool. So I think the obvious question here is, how accurate is the footprint based on these transactions? Don't you need more information about people to make sure you're getting it right?
Well, a carbon footprint is always an estimate, no matter how deep you dig. But when you think about it, a footprint based on real transactions is much more accurate than most carbon calculators available in the market, most of which rely purely on questionnaires. Importantly, we find the transaction-based estimate is almost always correct within 20% compared to the best possible estimate if you had all the data. And this is more than enough accuracy for all practical purposes. The principal advantage of using transactions, however, is that it's entirely automatic and always up to date. Convenience and automation always trumps manual effort. So way more people actually look at their estimate when it's so easy and seamless to do so. Now, having said this, the accuracy of the transaction-based carbon footprint can be improved further with user input in the most carbon-intense categories, such as food and travel. So let me give you an example. Dietary habits is an important factor for one's food consumption footprint, which is why we encourage users to tell us if they're meat eaters or vegan or something in between, and then we adjust the estimate accordingly. Users tell us they really like being able to influence the estimate in this way.
Cool. Okay, so now I have access to my carbon footprint. I can monitor it over time. But what if I want to take that next step and actually do something about it?
Good point. Now, this is where it starts to get really interesting. One thing you can do is change your behavior. And one of the great things about reducing your carbon footprint is that it often goes hand in hand with saving money and simplifying your life. Participate in community challenges to reduce your overall footprint. For example, try to reduce your weekly fuel spend by 30% and see if you can and if you notice the impact. But of course, we can never totally eliminate our footprint. That is neither realistic nor desirable, but we can neutralize it by supporting great projects around the world that are directly contributing to fighting climate change through offsetting. From reforestation in the Amazon to solar power projects in sub-Saharan Africa. Offset your flight, your fuel consumption, or your entire footprint via offsetting programs provided by Meniga and certified to be effective by the United Nations. Now, consuming sustainably is important, but so is banking sustainably. This is where you can explore sustainable banking options offered to you by your bank and expand your portfolio of green banking products and services. Banks that implement this solution will have built a perfect digital journey for cross-selling their eco-friendly banking products, such as green loans and green investment funds. The fact is, managing personal finances and carbon emissions go naturally together. For carbon-conscious consumers, there is no better place than your bank to keep track of your footprint over time. It's an entirely natural extension of personal finance management, since almost all carbon emissions are linked to spending of some sorts. Now imagine all of these carbon insights and actions accessible within your favorite banking app, with certified offsetting available at a click of a button.
This is really cool. But one question I have, explain to me why I as a bank should make this a part of my mobile banking app.
Well, the thing is not just the right thing to do, it's a business opportunity not to be missed. First, we are talking about a rapidly growing consumer segment of mostly affluent people, a super attractive segment with a clearly underserved need, which banks are well positioned to serve. These are people that make life choices based on environmental impact, and where do you want them to bank? Second, most banks are introducing eco-friendly banking products such as ESG funds, green savings accounts, green loans, etc., which are set to grow fast. You're basically creating a perfect cross and upselling platform for these products, as demonstrated a minute ago. And finally, if you take a firm and visible stand on climate change together with your customers, they will reward you with lifelong loyalty.
This makes a ton of sense to me. One last question. Is this really happening? Are banks actually using this?
You bet. We are already live with Íslandsbanki in Iceland, and we are implementing with banks in 4 separate countries as we speak. And the demand is growing fast. Carbon-conscious consumers are here to stay. Will you be their carbon-conscious bank? If you want to know more about Meniga Carbon Insight, visit meniga.com. Thank you.